Hey guys, it's Mindy. I'm here to talk about all the movies I watched in the month of April. I watched 8 movies, I believe, which is a great amount, but a lot of them were Disney movies, a lot of them were 2022 releases, so I am very excited to talk about all these movies with you. So let's just immediately jump into the list. The first movie I watched in the month of April is Moana, which came out in 2016. I gave 5 out of 5 stars to it as a rewatch. In ancient Polynesia, when a terrible curse incurred by Maui reaches an impetuous chieftain's daughter's islands, she enters the ocean's call to seek out a demigod to set things right. There were so many difficult words for me to pronounce in that synopsis. I'm sorry. Moana is probably my favorite Disney movie that I've seen. Let's just say it that way. Though my second favorite, Winnie the Pooh, is my favorite, but she's my favorite Disney princess. Let's say it that way. I love this movie so much, and there was like a period of time where I rewatched it constantly, and I haven't rewatched it in a couple of years, and I just impulsively decided to rewatch it in April, and I had such a blast rewatching this movie. I think that it's fantastic. I love the characters, I love the animation, I love the story, I love the music. The music is fantastic. There's a reason why Encanto is like next in line on my list of favorite Disney movies. Like, Lin-Manuel Miranda just knows how to write banging songs, and this movie isn't an exception to that. And yeah, I just say this movie is phenomenal and just such a fun time, with also a great heart at it and with some great messaging as well. And I highly recommend you go watch this if you haven't yet. It's gonna be a bit short about these movies. I don't have like loads to say about any of these, but let's go. Next, I watched Lilo and Stitch, which came out in 2002, and I gave 4 out of 5 stars to it as a rewatch. As Stitch, a runaway genetic experiment from a faraway planet, wreaks havoc on the Hawaiian Islands, he becomes the mischievous adopted alien puppy of an independent little girl named Lilo, and learns about loyalty, friendship, and ohana, the Hawaiian tradition of family. Now, Lilo and Stitch actually watched a couple of years ago, but I didn't remember that much from it, so I decided to rewatch it as well because I was in a bit of a Disney kick, as you can tell. And I again think this movie is so much fun. I don't love it as much as like a 5-star would be, but I also can't really like give you many complaints on this movie. I really love Lilo. I think she's a fantastic main character, and I love her, and I think Nani is a fantastic big sister, and I love the dynamics between Lilo and Nani. I think those are very interesting, as like Nani's now taking on like kind of like a parenting role for Lilo as well. I love Stitch. I think he's a great character. He goes through a lot of great development throughout this movie as well, and I really like everything about it. I definitely didn't remember kind of like all the alien stuff in this, so that was fun seeing that again. And yeah, this kind of gets me nostalgic, even though I don't think I watched this as a kid. I did watch the animated series when I was younger, so this movie always does get me nostalgic, even though like technically I don't think I watched this when I was a kid. Then next up, we have Moonshot, which came out in 2022. I gave 4 out of 5 stars to. In a future where Mars is terraformed and colonized by the best humanity has to offer, 2 very different college students wind up joining forces and sneak on board a space shuttle to the Red Planet in order to be united with their significant others. It's a rom-com set in space. I didn't need to know more about this movie to watch it, but just by chance, it also stars Lana Connor, which makes me even more excited. Lana Connor deserves to be the next rom-com queen because she's fantastic at it, and I love it. But Moonshot, I think if you're not like a big rom-com fan, this won't change your mind. Like, this doesn't do anything exceptional at all. This is like a very run-of-the-mill rom-com. But I really liked it because I love rom-coms. And like I said, I love Lana Connor. I think she's a fantastic actress, and I love what she does in rom-coms. And she did that amazingly as well. I really just had a blast watching this movie. I laughed. I shed a couple of tears. I thought the romance was great. I liked the characters. And I liked kind of like the space setting. We mostly spent time like on a spaceship. And I thought that was like such a fun setting for a rom-com, not one that I've seen often, so I appreciate it. I also really like that it's college age characters. I feel like this age is not one we get often with rom-coms, so I really like that because like they're at the end of college. Usually I feel like in rom-coms it's like adults, teens, or like early college. This is like at the end of college, and I really liked that age, just because I'm close to it. So I really like seeing that as well. And yeah, the only thing I didn't really like about this is once they get to Mars, I feel like a lot of things happen quickly. I feel there's a lot of like kind of like conflicts there that would be interesting if those were explored a little bit more. But for the rest, I thought this was a lot of fun. Then next, I watched Death on the Nile, which came out in 2022, and I give 25 stars to Belgian salute Hercule Poirot. Egyptian vacation aboard a glamorous river steamer turns into a terrifying search for a murderer when a picture-perfect couple's idyllic honeymoon is tragically cut short. I still don't know how to pronounce Hercule Poirot properly, which is a shame because I am Belgian, but I don't speak French, so but I watched Murder on the Orient Express a couple of months ago, and I quite enjoyed it, honestly. It's not the best, but I had a fun time watching it, so I was excited for Death on the Nile, but it was a disappointment. I don't hate it. There was still a lot of fun elements to it. Hercule Poirot is still a highlight in these movies. I think how he's acted is brilliantly, and I like his character a lot. I think he's very witty and intelligent, and also very self-aware in this movie, which I really liked. And there were some side characters I liked, because there was a huge cast of characters, so you can like at least a couple. But I wasn't the biggest fan of the mystery itself. It takes till about halfway to the movie for the murder to actually happen, which is just a little bit too long for me, because I feel like that first half just dragged a lot because of it, because just nothing was really happening in there. And then once Poirot gets into a solving mode, that's interesting, but then the way it's solved is so cliche, yet there is no hints actually dropped towards it, so you couldn't guess it, but also it's very obvious because it is such a cliche resolution. And I also feel the acting lacked in several characters, and I don't know, it was fine, but I don't like it as much. Then the next movie I watched is Achteraf, which came out in 2021, and I gave 2 to 5 stars to. While Eva is back. In the film, we discover that the old friends lost track of each other after their studies. They each followed their dreams and passions and are at a tipping point in their lives. One day, they receive a mysterious video message from the tech geek Carlo, who invites his old roommates to his wedding. During an eventful week, Steve, Brigitte, Zoe, Tom, and Jasmijn discover that a lot and at the same time little has changed in all these years. But where is Aker? And what is Carlo really up to? So this movie, basically, if you don't know, there was this show in the early 2000s called Walk the Zero, which was about a group of college students living together. And now, 20 years later, they released a movie with these characters and where they are now. This is it. And I feel very conflicted talking about this movie. I feel I have to rewatch it again to properly form my thoughts in it, because part of my brain was very clouded with nostalgia and loved every single thing happening in this movie, and then the other part of my brain was overcompensating for that nostalgia part of my brain and was just overly critical of everything, and therefore I don't feel I have a good grasp on my thoughts on this movie. But I can tell you that I had a fun time watching this. I thought it was fun, if not cringy at times. It's very cringy at times. Definitely the writers of this are very out of touch with hip things, while still trying to use influencers and stuff like that, but completely not aware of what that is like to be an influencer, stuff like that. The social media landscape they are totally unaware of, which makes it very cringy. I also feel a lot of the callbacks to the original show are very thrown in and not worked in, it's very cringy because it doesn't correspond the rest what's going on. But there are also some fantastic references in this, references that flow so flawlessly, and those make me wish that all of the references come in that way, but alas. But overall, the story is very over the top, extremely over the top, but it is fun and it doesn't take itself too seriously, which I also think is a lot of fun. And I think if you love the original show, you'll also have some enjoyment in this movie. Then next, I watched The Emperor's New Groove, which came out in 2000, and I gave 5 stars to it as a rewatch. Cusco is a self-centered emperor who summons Pacha from a village and to tell him that his home will be destroyed to make room for Cusco's new summer home. Cusco's advisor Isma tries to poison Cusco and accidentally turns him into a llama, who accidentally ends up in Pacha's village. Pacha offers to help Cusco if he doesn't destroy his house, and so they form an unlikely friendship. So, fun fact, as a kid, I was absolutely obsessed with Emperor's New School, I believe it's called in English, the animation series based on this. movie, but I didn't know this movie existed until like I got older and I got on the internet and everybody was making references towards it, and I was like, wait a minute, there's a movie? And then a couple of years ago I watched it for the first time, and as I was in a Disney rewatching mood, I rewatched this and I still love it. I think this is so great. I think definitely because the cartoon like has a lot of like similar like comedy beats as the movie does. I definitely think that show like shaped the humor that I have today. Like a lot of it is humor that I love today as well, which is why I still thoroughly enjoy this movie every single time. I generally think this is so funny, and I love fourth wall breaks. There are several pieces of media in my childhood that like show that can explain why I love fourth wall breaking, but I think this movie does so brilliantly. I love it every single time it is done. I really love the characters in this movie. I love the story. And I overall, like I said, I just think this is hilarious. I think this is Disney's funniest movie, and I haven't seen all of Disney's movies, but I highly doubt they'll top this. Next, I also just had to watch Kronk's New Groove, which comes in 2005, which I gave 2 to 5 stars to and was a rewatch as well. Kronk, now chef and head delivery boy of Mutka's Meat Hut, is fretting over the upcoming visit of his father. Kronk's father always disapproves of young Kronk's culinary interest and wished that Kronk instead would settle down with a wife in a large house on the hill. This, weirdly enough, I did watch as a kid. I have watched this movie several times when I was younger. I don't know what happened there, but it did happen, and I loved this as a kid. And sadly enough, upon rewatch, I just didn't really like it as much. I do think that this stays very true to the characters of the original, which I really appreciate because I love these characters. I also think it stays true to the humor of the original, which again I appreciate because the original is hilarious. But I just think this one has pacing issues because it is Kronk telling like 2 stories and then like the resolution with his father, and I feel like when you're in those stories you kind of like forget that he's telling the story, and then you come back to like the present timeline, I guess, and I don't know, it just feels very confusing, and like the timeline just doesn't work that well, and it feels very jarring. And there's also these fourth wall breaks by Cusco which don't make sense, and it generally just feel like push-ins rather than like clever fourth wall breaks. The last movie I watched in the month of April, I hated. It's Crush, which came in 2022, and I gave 1 of 5 stars to. When an aspiring young artist is forced to join a high school track team, she uses it as an opportunity to pursue the girl she's been harboring a long-time crush on, but she soon finds herself falling for an unexpected teammate and discovers what real love feels like. This was probably my most anticipated movie of the year that isn't like a big franchise movie, because come on, of course this makes me excited. It's a sapphic rom-com with Rowan Blanchard and Olihi Carvalho. Like Moana came out around the same time Girl Meets World was on the air. I was obsessed with both of those women, and even though I know Rowan is problematic now, like childhood me still screamed when this movie, well, childhood me, teenage me screamed when this movie was announced. Good times. But I didn't like this. I thought this was horrible. Like, definitely I think the writer of this movie just like hasn't talked to a single person ever in their lives, because this is not how people talk, like, at all. It's, the dialogue is so terrible, so cringy, and everything about it just like rubs me the wrong way. I hated it. I thought the characters are very poorly developed. I disliked most of the characters even. I thought the romance was very poorly developed and came out of nowhere, but also being super predictable. Like, I knew this was gonna happen from the first scene, yet I still hated how it was done. I thought like it made no sense because there were no feelings there. Like, you can convince me there were. And that might be because Olihi has dissed Rowan on social media and they don't get along. That might have played a part in it. It might have been just terrible writing, terrible directing, who knows. But they don't like it. Only thing I liked about this movie is AJ, who is Adi's character. I thought she was a fantastic character and I fantastically acted as well. But that's it. I didn't like the acting in this one again. And I think that might be because of the script, or maybe I hate the script because of the acting, who knows. But I hated it. And yeah, I had a horrible time watching this, and I might hate this even more because my excitement for this was so high, so I just like dropped down so low. But I can't tell you a single positive thing about this movie except Leo Carvalho was amazing, which is something I already knew, so nothing new. That's all I have for you today. I know it's a short one, but I don't have a lot to say about these movies, but if you want to know like my thoughts on movies like as I'm watching them kind of, go check out my TikTok. It's in the description. I review every single movie I watch on there, as well as every book, and I do a lot more things on there. But definitely go check that out if you want. And yeah, leave in the comment section below what you thought of these movies, if you watched them, saw some of the movies you watch in April, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Good.